What is going on, comic book fans? Welcome back to Bruce and Stephanie Comics. My name is Bruce, and welcome to the best of 2022 from Independent Comics. We have so many books to cover in this video because there were so many amazing comics coming out from the big independents: Image, Boom, Vault, Dark Horse. So many good independent titles that I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get right into this list, but there's two things that I want to let you guys know before we dive into this list. And the first thing is, I did not read every single comic that came out last year. So there might be some books that other comic book YouTubers or you yourself absolutely love that I'm not going to talk about it. And that does not mean those books were not great. It might just mean that I did not read them. And the second thing that I want to talk about is that this is just my opinion, guys. You guys might not agree with it. You might agree with it. And if you don't agree with it, that is totally okay. I would suggest maybe go check out some other comic book YouTubers that are making videos just like this. That way maybe you'll find some new books for you to read in 2023. Alright guys, those are the two things that I wanted to cover before we dive into the best of 2022 from Independent Comics. So let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Alright guys, kicking off this list of 19 books is just a little book called Vanish. Now Vanish is from Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, and if you are looking for a darker, more sadistic take on Harry Potter, this is the book for you. It's so dark and it's so violent, it is absolutely awesome, and it's just elevated by Ryan Stegman's artwork. It's so brutal and it was a really, really fun book. And to follow that book, we have a superhero book from Scout Comics called Distorted. Now this was written by Salvatore Vivenzo and art by Gabriel Falzone, and it was really, really fun. The first issue of this book I think might be my favorite issue from 2022. There was so much emotion and energy and passion put into that issue. It was so great. But what hurt this book, in my opinion, was that it was only 4 issues. I think this could have really stretched his legs out into 6 to 8 or maybe even 12 issues. But guys, this is a fantastic book from Scout Comics, and I would highly suggest checking this series out. And we're going to follow that up with Barbaric Axe to Grind. Now this is from Michael Morici and Nathan Golden, and this is a Vault title. And guys, this book is an ultra-violent book which follows a barbarian with a talking axe who likes to drink the blood of its victims and get drunk off the blood, a necromancer and a vampire. This was a really fun book. It was ultra-violent. If you like lots of blood and sex and violence, this is the book for you. I really enjoyed the writing, I really enjoyed the arc, and this was a super fun book. And the next book is another Vault title. That's right, 2 Vault titles in a row. This book is called Shadow Service. Shadow Service was so good in 2022. I don't think that many issues came out, but this is written by Kevin Scott and art by Corin Howell. And what this book is about magic. And there's actually an agency that polices magic, but the main character does not know how she got her magic, but the agency recruited her and they're fighting against the evils of magic. But along the way, we meet all these cool characters that the main character is friends with, and some tragic things happens to them, and she's trying to deal with all that, plus not knowing how she got her powers. It is such a good book. It's written so well by Kevin Scott, and I would highly suggest you guys check this out, especially if you enjoy magic. You will most likely enjoy this book. Alright guys, we have our first Boom title on the list with Basilisk. This is written by Cullen Bunn and art by Jonas Scarf, and if you want a horror thriller, this might just be the book for you. In this book, we're following a woman who has lost her family to this group of people who have magical powers, I would say. I don't remember exactly how they get them, but these people are evil. They're going out into the world and spreading plague and destruction, and they're killing towns. And this one woman, she was in a town when these people came through and they murdered her family, and she wants revenge on these people. There are some amazing covers throughout this series, but this book was really engaging. I really enjoyed this story, and I would highly suggest checking this book out. Now this next book I'm sure is going to be a little controversial to a lot of you, but guys, this was a guilty pleasure of mine. I am talking about Sweet Paprika from Mariko Andolfo. This was such a fun book. It's a rom-com and I really enjoyed it. And the characters are angels and demons and it was just super fun, and I enjoyed getting out of the superhero genre and the magic genre and the horror genre and everything else and just having a little fun in a rom-com book. It's very sexualized. It's really fun. There's not real sex happening, but there's a lot of sex talk in the book, and it is just a lot of fun in my opinion. As an adult, I really enjoyed it, and if you guys are looking for something different, you guys might want to check out Sweet Paprika because it was a lot of fun. And there were some covers for issue number 1 that were just insanely good. We can't talk about independence without talking about Something is Killing the Children. Something is Killing the Children started its second arc in 2022, and James Tynion IV and Werther Dell'Edera are still telling an awesome tale. It just wasn't the best. It didn't have the same energy as Volume 1, but it's still such a freaking good book, and we're building up to, I think, a really climactic point coming up in the next few issues of 28 and 29 and 30. So guys, if you guys are not reading, I would suggest getting caught up, because that was such an awesome book in 2022, and it's only gonna get better in 2023. Alright guys, and the next book that we're gonna talk about is a little book called Nocterra. Nocterra didn't have too many issues that came out in 2022. There were some one-shots and a few single issues, but guys, this book is so freaking good. It's written by Scott Snyder, so you know the writing is absolutely excellent, and the artwork is by Tony S. Daniels. Man, some of the panels in that story were so freaking good. He brings a lot of energy and emotion and detail. It is so good. This is an apocalyptic world where there is no more sun, and there's just darkness, and all these creatures have grown up, and they're starting to take over the world, and there's little pockets of humanity that are still surviving, and they're trying to find a way to bring back the light. It is so freaking good. And the cliffhanger at the end of the last issue, so good. So good. And up next is another magic book. Yes, I really enjoy magic, with The Magic Order. Volume 3 came out in 2022. This is written by Mark Millar and art by Gigi Cavango. And guys, this is such a brutal take on magic. We follow one family when they're trying to control the order of magic, but there's always chaos happening, and they're trying to solve it, and it's so good. Now, this is obviously from Mark Millar. He has a first look deal with Netflix, and I got my fingers crossed that they're gonna make this series, because they have done 3 volumes so far, and they're coming out with a 4th. So basically, Mark Millar has written a script for them for 4 seasons so far, and if they follow those books, this is gonna be such a good TV show. Alright guys, we're down to the final 10, and this next book is The Approach. The Approach only had 2 issues that came out in 2022, but guys, this book is so well written, and the artwork is fantastic. This is written by Jason Hurley and Jeremy Harn, and art by Jesus Hervaz, and this is a horror story. If you want to follow a story about a group of people who are locked into an airport because there's this giant blizzard, and then all of a sudden this monster pops up, this is the story for you. This is such a well-written book. Those first 2 issues were fantastic. I cannot wait to see where this book goes in 2023. And the next book up is Kaya. This is written and drawn by Wes Craig, and if you want to follow a brother and sister who might be the last humans on Earth, this might be the story for you. And the sister has a magical arm, and she has to protect her brother because he has some big thing that he needs to do, and they're following a group of lizard people, and the girl and the lizard leader are falling in love. It is so crazy, but this is such a fun book. There's a lot of heart and emotion in this book, and I absolutely love it. You guys should definitely be checking it out, and there are some really cool covers. Now, if you have watched any best of 2022 lists, you most likely have heard of this book. I am talking about Junkyard Joe. Now, this is written by Jeff Johns and art by Gary Frank, and there is so much heart and emotion in this book. It is absolutely stunning. Only 3 issues came out in 2022. That's why this book did not make the top 5 list, but guys, this is going to be one of the best books in 2023. I am telling you, this book is amazing. The art by Gary Frank is telling such an emotional tale, but the story that Jeff Johns has written is so good. And yes, it's all about a robot, an emotionless robot, but there's so much emotion in the book. It's so freaking good. You guys need to be checking this out, because again, this is going to be probably the best book of 2023. And the next book up is King of Spies from Mark Millar. That's right, the second book from Mark Millar on this list. And it has art by Matteo Scalera. Guys, this book follows the best spy in the world, and he only has 6 months to live. And what does he do with those final 6 months? Well, he tries to kill every bad person in the world before he dies. And there is a twist in there that is absolutely amazing. It is so freaking good. It's only 4 issues. It's super short, but guys, I would love to see Netflix or Amazon or someone pick this up and tell this tale, because it is that freaking good. It's ultra violent. It is so good, and you guys should check this out, because again, it is so good. Now, the final book before we get into the top 5 list is Stillwater. This is written by Chip Zdarsky and art by Mike Spicer, and I have been talking about this book for so freaking long. Issue 18 just came out in 2022, I believe. Maybe it was in the first week of 2023. But guys, if you are not reading this book from Chip Zdarsky, that you guys are missing out on an amazing independent book. It's about a town of people who cannot die, and then a person from the outside comes in and causes absolute chaos, and we follow that story, and it is so good. You guys need to be checking this out, and it is the final book before we get into the top 5 list of 2022 from independent comics. All right, guys, let's find out what the number 5 book is. Alright guys, sitting in the number 5 spot is a little book called Grimm from Boom Studios, and this is written by Stephanie Phillips and art by Valvano. I want to say that's how it's pronounced. But guys, this is a super fun book. It was so well written from Stephanie Phillips, and if you read her Harley Quinn run, this is definitely a lot better than that. So if you didn't like that, you guys might actually really enjoy this, because again, I think the writing in this book is spectacular. This follows a Grim Reaper. That's right, a Grim Reaper. This is kind of like a fantasy type book. Not fantasy, I guess you would say it's a little horror, but to me it's a little more fantasy because, you know, Grim Reapers aren't real. But guys, this Grim Reaper is ferrying people to the underworld, and we find that there's a whole community of Grim Reapers who are doing the same thing, helping ferrying souls over to the afterlife, and we find out that this one doesn't know how she died, and we're following her journey to try to figure out how she died. And at the end of issue number 5, I believe, we get the big reveal, and oh my god, it is so freaking good. And a big part of this book is music, which is so cool, and the art by Valvano is really solid. I really enjoyed this book. It is in the number 5 spot from the best of 2022. Guys, what did you think? Did you guys really enjoy Grimm? Would you put it on your top 5 list, guys? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's move on to number 4. Alright guys, in the number 4 spot is such an amazing book with Dark Spaces Wildfire. This is written by Scott Snyder and art by Hayden Sherman. And guys, when I say that this is a good book, it is a really good book. The writing from Scott Snyder is some of the best from 2022, and the art from Hayden Sherman is super solid. And what this book did super well, in my opinion, is getting you emotionally invested in the characters. The way that Scott Snyder lays out the story for each of the women. There are 4 inmates who are firefighters that are out on leave on this firefighting program, and there's 1 cop, and you find out a little bit from each of the inmates and what brought them there and why they want to get out. And then you find out this heart-wrenching story from the police officer and why she's doing what she's doing. You are so emotionally invested, and there's so many twists and turns. This is kind of like a heist book. I don't want to ruin anything else, but guys, so good. So good. I hope you guys take my advice and check this book out. You guys will not regret it. It is worth your time. It is worth your money. It is the number 4 book on my top 5 best of 2022. Let's go ahead and find out what my number 3 book is. Sitting in the number 3 spot is Wind, Throne of the Skies, written by James Tynion IV and art by Michael Delanis. If you like coming-of-age stories, you like stories about people dealing with issues in their life and how to overcome those issues, if you like a fantasy tale set in this super magical world with vampires and fairies and humans and so many other things, this might be the book for you. The art by Michael Delanis is so amazing. It is perfect for the story because you're following a group of kids. That's right, you're not following adults, you're following a group of kids who are going through so many emotional things in their life. They're on the run, they're dealing with their own personal issues. The main character is dealing with he's becoming a bird-like creature thing, but he's also in love with this boy, and he's dealing with the feelings of being gay, but also falling in love with this guy who he doesn't know if he's gay or not. It is just so many good things happening in this story. James Tynion IV is telling an amazing story. I absolutely love this book. I also love that each story is a big fat story. They're oversized, and it is just so good. So good. And this volume just wrapped up. I haven't read the final issue. It's in my to-read pile. But guys, this is some of the best from 2022, in my opinion. Again, I really love those coming-of-age, emotionally wrought stories. But guys, maybe you don't, and this is not on your top 5 list. But to me, this is the number 3 book from Independence from 2022. All right, guys, let's go ahead and find out what my number 2 is. All right, guys, the book that's in the number 2 spot is a book that I don't think I saw on anyone else's list of the best of 2022, and that's crazy in my opinion. And the book that I'm talking about is Slumber. Slumber is from Image Comics. It's written by Vanessa Cardinelli and art by Tyler Burton Smith, and it follows a character called Stetson who can enter people's dreams and she can murder their nightmares so that way they can sleep peacefully. But we find out that she's actually hunting down a living nightmare that is murdering people, and we find out that this living nightmare actually murdered someone really close to her, and we get really emotionally invested into this character. But guys, this is also a very funny book. The writing in this book is funny. It's also gets you very emotionally invested to the characters, and the art by Tyler Burton Smith is very bright and it's very visceral, and it is absolutely awesome. I really enjoyed this book. You guys can pick this book up and trade paperback right now, and I highly suggest you guys picking this up if you want a horror comedy book, because this was so good. All right, guys, that was my number 2 book. Let's go ahead and find out what my number 1 is. 2022 from the Independents is none other, you guys can go ahead and say it because you guys already know what it is. Do a Powerbomb from Daniel Warren Johnson is the best independent title from 2022. It might just be the best book from 2022. I would put it up against Batman Beyond the White Knight from Sean Murphy because I absolutely love that book. But To a Powerbomb had me tearing up, had me crying. It is an emotional roller coaster, and it's a wrestling book. A wrestling book. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about this book. You guys can go watch other comic book YouTubers go in detail about this book, but this is an emotional roller coaster. What Daniel Warren Johnson does really well is get you invested to the characters, get you invested to their emotional journey along this story, and it is so good. And it's crazy because there's a necromancer that comes in, introduces himself to the main character who lost her mom in the very first issue and promises if she finds a tag team partner and they come fight in his wrestling match and they win, he will bring back her mom. And that is pretty much the synopsis of this story. And these two characters go on this journey trying to bring her back, and it is so good. And in the final issue, they wrestle God. My mind was just blown when I read that. It was so good. And the art by Daniel Warren Johnson is so good. So good. The amount of motion that he puts into every single panel. His panel layouts are so good. And the action is mind-blowingly good. Mind-blowingly good. It is the best book from 2022 from the Independents. And it's maybe tied with Batman Beyond the White Knight for the best book of 2022. All right, guys, this is probably a really long video. I hope you guys stayed to the end and you enjoyed this video, but let's go ahead and wrap this video up. All right, guys, that was the best of 2022 from the Independents. And if you guys have watched this long, I really appreciate it. And if you guys have, you guys know exactly what you are. You guys are legends. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video right here and you guys enjoy comic book content and you guys are not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Get yourself subscribed, hit that bell for notification, and smash that like button. Now, the next thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do is to leave a comment down below letting me know what your favorite book from 2022 from the Independents are. And guys, I wanna see how many people put Do a Powerbomb as their favorite book from the Independents. And I believe there's a lot of you out there that are gonna put that book right there as their best book, their favorite book from the Independents, maybe even their favorite book of 2022. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.